Hi Wendy, can you hear me? Hi Keith, I thought you'd be on tonight. This one is just for you. Well, not just for you, but with you in mind. Hi Tim, I don't know, I seem to have frozen. I don't know what's going on. Can anybody hear me? Ah, Wendy, thank you. Cool. So, hi Keith, Liz, hi, Jacqueline, hi, Tim, hi. From Alabama. Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you for taking the trouble to spend your lovely afternoon, or part of it at least, listening or watching me paint. Oklahoma, we have 2 from the US. Thank you so much, guys. That is fantastic. All right, so we have better start. I'll get a few more minutes just to let everyone come in, and we'll go from there. There's a few normal viewers that are not showing up at the moment. I'm sure they will do in the next few minutes. But welcome everybody. The idea of doing a gouache tonight was actually the fact that one of my regular viewers, Keith, is also here tonight. He sort of suggested he worked in gouache, so could what I was teaching be applied to that? And I said yeah. So I felt this time it would be nice to do a gouache, and so that's what we're going to do. All right, so time is cracking on. I think we will probably get underway, see what goes and see what happens. So I'm just going to change my screen to what you will be seeing, and this will be the way it is. Well, Keith, I mean, like everybody, the reference to this is free to download over on my Patreon. So just go over there, download the reference and the line art, and take your time at it and have a go in your own speed. There's no crucial thing to say you've got to do it as I teach you or as I do this demonstration. Anyway, let's get started then very, very quickly, because these paintings are not fast and they do take a little bit of time. So first and foremost, the paper. I'm using some Bohung watercolor paper. This is the pro grade, but the student quality, which is a little cheaper, is almost just as good. And that both of them are, I'm happy to report, pure cotton paper, and they are not hybrids, i.e. 50% paper of wood pulp or cotton, or even full wood pulp. They are full cotton, so they are as good as you're going to get. And this is a 9x12, and the red cover denotes the fact that it is hot press. I really do like hot press paper, and that's why you see me use it so many times in my own work. Okay, so there we are. I have the Gemsbok drawn out. Now, I did take the trouble. I thought I got it right, that I couldn't work out or remember from years ago what Gemsbok stood for. And the bok is a buck. It's a deer. It's a ram, basically. But the Gemsbok is gem. It's Afrikaner for gems. It's that diamond shape on the face mask of this animal that gives it its name. It's the old Dutch Afrikaner called Gemsbok, but also known as an Oryx. So whichever way you want to go with that, that's fine. Okay, so quickly, the brushes. The brushes that I use are all Roseberry & Company. These are synthetics. They're not necessarily watercolor brushes. It's funny, really. I was just thinking about this earlier, that I tend to use a lot of round brushes for watercolor, big or small, and riggers. But when it comes to using for gouache, I tend to prefer flats or filberts. Crazy, but that's the way it is. So what I've got here is a variety of daggers, a couple of small rounds. They're all synthetic, although the colors are different. Some of them are white, some of them are ivory, some of them are evergreen, but they are pretty much all sort of flats or filberts or daggers. So it really doesn't matter, but I wouldn't use anything that could be construed as hog or stiff bristle. It really won't work too well. The softer nylon bristles, filaments, really work well with gouache. So that's to one side. And a quick word about the paint. Now, I have provided you all with the paint that I'm using, at least the colors. Now, this is my normal palette that I keep everything in. I haven't done a gouache in, it's almost embarrassing. I don't think I've done one in nearly a year, maybe a little less. But this is a palette that I got last year, and I wasn't too sure about it. And it's got this sort of membrane seal, which is very, very good. Now, I put these colors in here about a year, 10 months to a year ago. I used them for one little painting when I was out doing plein air. And I then put them away, put them in there, set this all up, put it all back, and I stuck it in the fridge. Now, I haven't actually opened this in all that time. I could not believe how moist and untroubled these paints were. Now, they're a little stiffer than when I first put them in there, for sure. But there is movement in them. It would not take much to get them going again, as you can see. So I really was quite pleased with the fact that these were still malleable and they had not got any contamination from the arch enemy of gouache, which is mold. So these probably will do now because they've been kept out of the fridge for the afternoon while I was getting ready. Now, by pure contrast, I have a set of colours that I was using from a year or so back, and these were just put into these pans and taken into the field because I couldn't really see the point of this method. But oh boy, was I wrong. These have just dried and cracked, and half of them are falling out everywhere, and that is the state with all of these. I went through trying to put them all back together earlier. So not the best way to use a gouache. And incidentally, a lot of gouache painters will quite happily pour out or squeeze out what they're going to use in a session, get rid of that, and then clean up after and start again. But this is quite a natty way of keeping your paints going for some time. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be using. I have just moved that out and put a little bit of white somewhere on here. Let's put some white on here. There we go, got a nice bit of fresh white. Now the thing about acrylics is that it is an opaque medium. So all said and done, watercolor is painting light through to dark. And with gouache being an opaque medium like oil, like acrylic, you paint from dark through to light. So your light colors are, at the end of the day, the lightest colors are the ones you put on right at the end of your painting. I'm just going to get some of this covered out now and get rid of some of this white paper that we're looking at. So I'm just going to bear with me. Two computers and two mouse buttons and see which one I need to press first. Okay, so I'm just going to come here. Now, some of the colors that I put in my list are, they're all the same, but they're all in here. So even ones that I hadn't listed are actually in here somewhere as well. So I'm just going to just come in and mix up a few colors just to get this ball going, as it were, a little bit of red into there. And that will give me a really dirty, grimy color for some of the rocks at the back. Put some of that to one side and come in with some more blue. And we're going to make a little bit of color for our water. Now for me, a lot of painting in gouache is about the opacity, and it's about layers. So I'm just going to come in here and just cover out some of our watercolor. Now it is much darker than the blue that you see in the painting itself. Very, very wet as well. I didn't realize how wet that mix was. Going to lift some of that back out, get rid of some of that. But bearing in mind that it is an opaque medium, then of course we do want to assure ourselves that we've got good coverage. But because it's opaque, we can layer. So the moment this dries out, then there's nothing stopping us to go back in and put more colour over the top of what's just been laid. I'm just going to work around the shape a little bit quickly. Now I'm not worried about having situations like we sometimes occur with watercolour. We've got hard edges. We're going to get them, and we can get them very easily with this medium. But at the same time, because it's a layered medium, because we can go back in and we can adjust some of those colours and add to them without a problem, then there's nothing causing us an issue when it comes to getting rid of such horrible marks that can be created. Okay, just continue on, just trying to cover this out as fast as possible. If you have got your drawing ready to go, then just be careful at this stage that you don't suddenly lose or go over some of your drawn marks, because they will be hard to sort out later on. I'm just coming up that beautiful strong horn on these animals, and I think if I'm right in saying, somebody out there may know more, but these are second only in stature to the Great Plains eland, which is Africa's largest antelope, and I think kudu comes pretty close, but I think that this fella is such a big meaty animal, and so yeah, it I think it's the second largest, but as I say, by all means, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that. I'm sure I possibly am. Now, whilst the paint is damp, you can keep working into it. You can pick it up, you can move it around, and unless you're going to paint this on just like a big lump of chalky mixture, then you will have to layer this beast. You're not going to paint all that colour in one single pass and it be there forever. You're going to have to add to it. It's as simple as that. Mistake. Do make them. Don't worry about them. I think that's another thing about painting like this, especially when you're in the public arena like this with you guys, is you make a mistake, you can't get away from it. You've made the mistake, but the trick is to keep your cool and work around it and come out the other side with a painting that's still going forward. Now the paper that I've got on here is, as I said, it's bowl hung, but in addition to the fact that it's hot press, it is also a block of, it's not a single-sided gum paper, it is a block of paper. Oh, this paint is drying so fast, it's so warm. We're expecting, I don't know if you're living in England, we're expecting a bit of a heat wave tomorrow, so we're already getting medical warnings to stay out of the weather and the sun. Now you can see, I'm jumping all over with my comments, I do apologise, but you can see I'm putting this water on quite dark compared to what may be in the reference photo. Now there are two reasons for that. One, I want the lighter colours to show up. I need them to be there, be in evidence, and if you have something that's too light in terms of colour, then you're going to end up not seeing any highlights that you put in. So this is almost like a bit of a dark, or a little bit darker than mid-tone, really. It's not a dark, it is darker than the water shown in the reference photo. Bring that down through there, and the water, well, it comes down a little bit like that, and it doesn't matter if you follow the reference totally or not at all. It is just suggestive, and the moment And yeah, I have a whole about 10-12 photos in the sequence of this animal charging into the water. And if you notice in the reference, actually, you can see that one ear is forward and one ear is back. And that's purely and simply that it's not that there is a predator behind, it's just that other animals were coming in, and I think there were a pair of zebra also fighting on the bank. So he's just keeping his ears out to any potential issues that may affect him in the water. But so one ear is turned forward, the other one is turned back. Just a little bit of security for him. I'm going to let that dry up, and it is very, very patchy and quite ugly to look at. But don't worry about that. We're going to crack on and we're going to change all of that. But what I want to do that, I want to come back here. I just want to put in what could be the bank at the very top here. So I'm just going to put this in. If anyone's got any questions, oh, hang on, there's a lot happening on the chat. I was completely oblivious to that. I do apologize. Just put that in there. I'm just going to move that down so I can see my reference. Ah dear. Colin, good evening. Nice to see you from France. That's great. Graham, thank you very much for joining in. Keith, hot enough day. Absolutely. Pat, nice to hear from you from South Africa. Good to have you on board. From Annette from Chester. Hi Annette, thanks for joining in. Catherine, good evening. I think I know who that is. Keith, just a quick Google Oryx for that. Very similar. No, it's the same animal, Keith. Oryx is the probably a European name or a modern name for it, but its original name in Afrikaans, Dutch name is Gemsbok. Roxy, good evening from California. Cool. All right, okay. So let's carry on. It's nice to have so many of you guys tuning in from the US. I've got a lot of US clients, and I've got a lot of following from my early days as a wildlife artist. I used to do an awful lot of shows in America and travel around the booth shows from Wisconsin and down into Florida and places like Lakeland, and of course the biggest one I used to do was in Charleston, which was always the highlight of my year, to have an excuse to get to America and do the booth shows out there, which was a great time. Sadly for me, that all ended with 9/11, which was a very, very sad episode in history, and from my point of view, it made it very difficult to get artwork into the US. So in the end, the decision was made to stop doing just that. I keep going, I do apologize. I'm just checking confirmation. I'm just checking stuff in the in the chat, just to make sure I'm not missing too much what's going on. Okay. I've just lost my reference. There we go. Alright, so that's going to let that dry up. We've put a bit of a dark in that can suggest some of the stones. This actual Gemsbok or Oryx was photographed in a place called Okakwio in Etosha, which is a big waterhole at the main camp. As you go into Etosha National Park, you will go to check in for your registration for your stay in Etosha, and this will be the big waterhole that is centered at that spot. So it's a great place for wildlife viewing, as most of the other places are in throughout the Etosha Park. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to have to get on with this, because if I don't, I'm never going to get this painted. And I've got to try and get these paintings that I do on these streams, I've got to try and get them down to about an hour to an hour and a quarter, hour and 20 minutes. And the reason for that is that in August I'm starting my longer streams. They're going to be about 2 to 3 hours long. They will be over on my Podia site. There will be a paid gig. You'll pay about, I think it's about 10 or 12 pounds for a ticket, and you'll get one a month of those, and that's the design that we will cover a lot more information. You'll get a lot more from it, and hopefully quite a few people will get involved with that. I'm just putting a first coat on the animal itself, and there's not too much. Got to wait for some of this to dry a little bit, I think, but I'm just trying to plant in a little bit of information in here. I can come all the way down through the mask, it's not a problem. And I can take this all the way up into the area of the horns. Now the paint is still able to be picked up and manipulated. It's not dry, and even when it is dry, it can still be played around with. So just be mindful of that if you are sort of getting into making this painting fast and furious, and not taking too much care over the add more. Now I did say that our gouache is not like watercolor. It is meant to be an opaque medium. It was never ever really created as an artist's medium. It was a designer's medium. It was made for the quick poster art that designers would need to create something fast that could go to press and then come out as whatever number of posters were needed by whoever was creating them, or at least instigating their creation. And they needed a fast medium that was opaque and solid enough to give a nice even color. And that's how gouache really came about, to be fair. And it became very much central to many artists in creating their own work from using this medium. It's a lovely medium, there's no two ways about it, but it does really take on a life of its own when it comes to how you use it, to be fair. So I'm just trying to concentrate at the same time as thinking about what I'm meant to be saying. But yes, gouache, as I say, it is not always an easy one. And when I'm putting these colors on here, these lights and these darks, the thing about gouache is it many of the light colors will dry darker, and many of the dark colors will dry lighter. So it can be very, very difficult to actually assess the right color you put down for the overall end result. And I think you have to be aware of that when you are mixing your colors, that if it's a light one, make it a little lighter, and if it's a dark one, make it just a little darker. And I think you'll find that it will work out right in the long run. But it's like watercolors, you know, watercolors will dry lighter generally than the color you put on. So just be mindful of all those little things. Every medium out there, from oil to pastel to watercolor and acrylic, gouache, and everything that we use in between, has its own set of issues that you need to be mindful of when you are painting. Right. Hi Sylvia, and hi Catherine. I guess it was you. Nice to have you here this week. I hope you're well. Just putting in a little bit of color. This painting, I don't know, I haven't painted in gouache for such a long time, and I got to say, this is either going to work or it's going to be an absolute disaster. So I'm hoping that it will not be the latter. let's just keep our fingers crossed and make sure that it isn't a problem. I'm just going to come down to a smaller brush, and I'm going to come in for this little snowdrop from Roseberry & Company. I'm going to mix up a dark. Now my dark is not a black. My dark is made up of some Sienna and some Ultramarine Blue. There are many darks that you can create for your work, but I try to steer away from using a black. I have done, and I will do if there is no other means to what I'm trying to get for, to get to with the painting. I'm just going to come down initially and put the shape of this mask in. Now when I put the drawing on, I actually then took a lot of the graphite off so that it wouldn't mix with the paint, but in hindsight I feel that I actually took just a little bit too much of it away, and I'm struggling to see some of my lines with what's what here and what I should be doing. I've got the eye here, and I'm just going to come in and tap in the general shape for the eye, leaving a little bit of white for the moment and play around with that later. Then we come down with the light underneath the eye and coming down with the face stripe down to this side. All of a sudden we're starting to build our animal up, and it's no longer just a mass of horrible colour mixtures around it. We are taking steps to eradicate that and bring that down and make something more definite with our painting. Just coming in here with a couple of shapes for the nostrils. And coming down, even those two marks up, coming down here between the don't know if I missed anything. I don't think so. How are we doing? Not too bad. Wendy, I haven't actually seen Ben this evening. I don't know if he's watching or if he's out or busy or away, but I haven't seen his name appear. Just coming drawing around the shape now before I lose anything. Now here you see I've got much too much dark going on with our surrounding water, because I've got the dark on for the ear and I can barely see it. So it's all about laying this colour in to start with, and then building on that as the painting carries on. All I'm doing is laying that groundwork for hopefully finishing off as I would like it near the other end of this painting, as it were. A bit more blue. Where's my burnt sienna? In there. Blue and burnt sienna makes a really incredibly vibrant dark, and I've picked out quite a bit of paint out of there. Now the thing about mixing or taking paint out of something like this is that you're dropping bits of water in, so you're actually making all this paint quite moist quite early on. So just be aware of that, just be mindful of it. But you don't want it too wet, really. It just becomes a sludgy mess and awful to handle. And the other thing about gouache, unlike oils, is the fact that it is a matte medium, and oils can have quite a gloss tinge to them. They can be very rich and vibrant, and you don't tend to get that with this, or indeed with acrylics, if I'm honest. Acrylics can be very frustrating because they do need, like gouache, they need a lot of work in terms of the ability to make them shine, to make them really resonate. Is a little bit of a wrong shape there. I'm going to have to redraw that ear. It's not quite where I want it to be. We'll do that in a moment. I'm going to maybe sort of pick some of this colour of white up, mix with some cobalt blue. make my cobalt a little more electric with some phthalo blue. That is very, very electric. Okay, and I'm just going to come in here and start laying in some extra colors of blue and come down here, just suggesting or redrawing some of these forms and shapes. We will come in and do more. I just want to start to look at creating more brush marks and then come up and around here. I want to shape this ear it to be, so I'm coming around with that lighter blue and into that shape just there. That's where it's not quite right. Take that out that way, and that will allow the horn to be seen quite nicely. Take that up around there. Okay, we are going to get much lighter. We're going to get quite warm as well with some of our colour. So I'm going to bring some of that lovely warmth out in some of these colours here. Now you can see how we can start playing around with some of this water. But we've got to keep, this is the thing about all of this painting, it's all about the contrast, and it's all about your lights, your darks. Now, we know that this animal is much lighter than the surrounding water. But of course, at the same time, we need to have the water lighter than all of the animal, or else you won't see that you won't see that either. Now here, fortunately, we have coolish colours in our water, and we have quite a warm colour in our animal, so that does go a long way to help us out, but it's not ideal. You have to sort of judge values and tones of values, or shades of chroma, depth of how light or dark something is, how warm or cool something is, as you move forward. How many are watching, Wendy? Just out of interest. I've seen a few names. I'm assuming I am not talking to myself. At least I hope I'm not, anyway. Now, how far we get with this painting tonight, I have no idea. I hope that we can get a good way to finish. But it may not be totally finished. I don't like that shape there. That's not quite right. To change the shape of that ear. I don't ever want to rush just to please an audience. I'd rather go so far with it and then come back to it in my own time and continue with the idea of what I was trying to do. And that's the same with anyone who follows along to any of my paintings on here on the streams. You know, instead of trying to force yourself to paint at the speed or whatever I am, and don't forget, I'm painting as I would normally paint, and because I know what I'm doing, I'm just picking up color, putting it down. You're not getting the chance really to look at that color, mix that color. You need more time. So as much as I say these streams are there for you to paint along to, please don't feel that you have to, and don't put yourself under that pressure. The reference is always over on my Patreon, and it's free to download. You don't need to be a patron to do that. Just go over and download it and have a go, but in your time, and that's as simple as that. Okay, Wendy. Yeah, I keep seeing this fluctuation. I saw about 26 to or more, then it went down to 10 or something, and then it came back up again. I don't quite understand what that's all about. Now you can see these colors are very, very dull. My light is picking them up here, and they're not showing up that well on camera, unfortunately, but you will get an idea that it's sort of, the colors are very, if you squint down at this, these colors, they may be warm and cool, but they are all merging together because they are very much in the same spectrum of hue. They are neither light nor dark. They're all about the same, and therefore they are not really 24 now. Crazy. Okay, I'm going to come in now with a definite punch up on some of this color, and I'm going to sort of start laying in some very stronger lights through here. I'm going to allow some of those darker areas to punch through. That was the idea. There's no point in putting them in only to paint them all out. That's crazy. So I'm just going to come in and put in some very much lighter colors. Now I'm going to bring some of them up in what could be our rocks up in the top end here. Now I do paint quite thinly, I have to say. Some people will put not very much water with the gouache. I don't tend to do that. I like to work up in many layers and allow the painting suddenly to evolve, almost like carving a piece of rock or stone and seeing your sculpture slowly but surely emerge from the stone. And that's how I look at this, really. Coming down and bringing in, allowing some of that color to pop through, and overall and in time it will slowly lose out to opacity and not so much, oh, I like that rock there, and yeah, it won't have so much to do with transparency. Some of these paintings can take a day or more, 2 days to do, and we're trying to achieve, at least I'm trying to achieve, quite a bit in a very short space of time. Now coming with that English light red. Excuse me, everybody. Just warming up some of this color. But to make this really work, we're going to have to get quite serious with the punchiness, the lights and the darks that we see. Otherwise, it's going to grow and dry out like this. Paintings will fail or survive upon how good your contrasts are. Oh dear, my apologies. Alright, hopefully that won't carry on. Yes, what I was saying is that paintings will sink or swim, basically, on the ability to create that lovely degree of light and dark that really punches your work out when you are looking at it, or when someone is looking at it, not necessarily you. Keeping to colors that just represent the colors that you see in the photograph may not always work. You have to be prepared to tell a few lies, a few porky pies, as they say, in as much as that sometimes the camera doesn't tell us the truth when it's recording what we're looking at, and that often happens. But at the same time, when we look at something in the naked eye, with the naked eye, and we're outside at the scene, as it were, then quite often or not, we see so much more with the naked eye than we could ever achieve to see in a camera lens, or at the other end of a camera, i.e. with the digital exposure that we take, because a camera sees in millions or billions of colors. We see in almost unending amounts of color when we see something, and our eyes are so much more receptive to what we see than you are with a camera. A camera doesn't pick up good photographs of sunsets, yet you can see a good sunset, and you can see all the relevant information in the foreground, the background, and so on. And a camera can't do that. This is why it gravitates to almost a silhouette in the foreground, because it's picking up for the sky, or it's lost the sky and picked up the lovely foreground. Whereas if you just look at it, you can see all that information at hand. You do not have to play around with it. Anyway, I digress a little, but now that if anyone has got any questions, I don't know how many are watching or whatever, because the numbers keep going up and down apparently, but if you've got any questions and you want me to answer those, please ask them. Just simply, if you would be so kind as to put a capital Q, or even 3 capital Qs, and then type your question, and I'll answer it. I'll read it out and I'll answer it for you as best I can, anyway. Right, let's go on here. I want to put a few darks in. I just need to put some more of this blue color in. A little bit of that one, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I just want to come down in here and quickly bash this foreground in place so that we can then come back in with some of our watery effects. Very colourful at the moment, I think, but we need to really start adding some information, some detail into not just the animal but the water, of course. And moreover, and for me, what the fun of this painting is all about the beautiful splash, the water, play of water and the light within that. It's that splash that really drew me to this picture. Got lots of pictures of Oryx, Gemsbok, as I have indeed other animals from Africa, but it's just things like water, the splash, the chase, the dust, all of these little things that make a painting rather special. A little bit more red into that, that's too much. Back to the blue. I'm going to have to refill some blue in a moment. I'm going to put a little bit more of my Sienna mix into that. This is raw Sienna, just turning it slightly a greenish colour, dirty blue colour more than anything else. But we need that dirty blue colour to really set the scene for our water splash. And it's quite warm underneath that splash. And I've got to say, I'm just now getting a feel for this painting. Took me a little while. Sometimes you can sit and you can work on something and it just pops. But it takes, sometimes you do it, it just takes a little more. And this is just starting to hit with me in the right way, and that's good because now I can start getting on and enjoying everything. I was a little bit sort of not sure where I was going with this for a short time, but now I'm quite happy with what's going on. I want to put in a bit of warmth in there, so I'm going to come back for some Sienna and some raw Sienna, both burnt and warm, just to tap in a little bit of warmth in here. And I'm playing around with some of these shapes and these forms in this water coming down through here. Little eddies, little taps of warm colour. Some of them the mud in the bottom of the water, others the coolness reflecting the sky, and of course indeed the whites and the cool colours of the sun, as it were. So lots of that going on, and I'm looking quickly now where I want to go for more. I think I want to just come in with some of this while I've got it. Just want to tap in a little bit more form, just glazing over little taps of the area, and they're not necessarily the finished part of the stone. They are anything but. Of course the stone's got dark sides, it's got cool and warm sides. I'm just trying to mix up the colour at the top here to suggest that we've got a myriad of stonework up here on the edge of the bank. There's mud between some of those, and so we're going to utilize and bring some of that in, and just tapping a thin layer over the top of everything. Just helps break up the color from the blues and the warms. No painting in its creation should ever be solely warm colors or solely cool colors. Even if you are setting out to do something like that with your work, you should at least add little bits of both, even if it's just a small amount of something, just to keep that warm and cool color going. It really does work out well and adds a lot of depth to what you're doing. Okay, Keith got a question. You used burnt sienna with ultramarine blue to make the black. Do you think burnt umber would work as well? Yes, it does. Absolutely it does, Keith. I use burnt umber a lot of the time, but at the same time the burnt sienna will make a richer dark. You can swing it to like a burned black or a cooler blue. So both will work with ultramarine blue, and there are many other colors that you can use to create your darks. It doesn't have to be the ones that I've just been speaking about. You could indeed use alizarin crimson or magenta with one of the sap greens or the phthalocyanine green. The transparency of those colours works very, very well and creates a different dark. With alizarin and viridian, or alizarin and phthalo green, you get quite a cool dark, and that can work well. You can actually put that dark with the dark that you create with your ultramarine blue, and you can end up with two different blacks, two different very dark colors, and they actually do look different if you put them side by side. So it's worth considering that if you are, like, if you were doing for instance, trying to think something, if you had an eye, say a tiger's eye you were doing, and you can put a dark really in the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna, but you could put an inner dark with the alizarin and green. It gives a different dark and makes it seem even darker. It's quite a useful combination to keep in mind. Right, now just gonna come over here and just gonna simply put in a bit of gouache, a bit too dry. Trying to play around with some of these, and you can see me dancing with the end of the brush. I've got a dagger, and I love these daggers. Rosemary does so many of them. They are all very beautiful brushes to use. I'm picking up some of the brown before it totally dries, so some of these little watery splats are mixing into the background as I'm painting it. I'm going to have to come in with some darks again. There's not enough there, I don't think. I come in here and pick a bit of that cooler colour up, sort of a shady part over the back of the water as that comes down. Or literally an initial set of colours, set of mark making, sort of drawing with the paint, feeling my way, seeing where you want to go, and taking it forward slowly. But I'm not putting my highlights in yet. I'm not using my strongest light colours or my deepest dark colours. I'm merely trying to set up the scene of the splash so that we can then come back in and add more to it and make it even more convincing towards the end of the painting. And splash that. See how that little bit of light just goes off into that background like that. Now it's not going to probably stay there, but I just wanted to show it really. Okay, I want to come in with a bit of blue. I'm running out of this blue. I'm going to have to recharge that. Yeah, it's very, very weak and quite a bit of water in there, I think, feeling of that. Actually I'm going to use a little bit of red. Now, a red with yellow in it, such as a cadmium, will give a dirty purple colour. Well worth figuring that out. If you use alizarin and ultramarine blue, they are almost related in as much as one's a red blue and one's a blue red. Neither of those two colours I've just mentioned actually has any yellow in, so you can actually get a very pure violet or purple from using them in that way. The moment, however, you add in a bit of yellow somehow, i.e. with cadmium red, which is a yellow red, then you dirty that mixture and you get a grey violet. You get a violet that's corrupted. So it's well worth thinking of that, because it's not wrong. Don't think of that, or don't take away from that you think that that is wrong. It's not wrong at all. It is merely another approach, another set of colours that are not as full. They haven't got the chroma that a pure colour violet has, but they do, however, have a lot to offer you in terms of dirty violet colours, or greys as it were. Right, now I want to put that dark stripe down through the throat. And we've got to look at that position as that comes down there, down the side of the face to there. Then we've got the cheek mark up through there. And then that literally descends down and then enters this area, which is the nice throat stripe that the animal has. I'm going to make that a lot stronger and actually a lot narrower when it gets to about there. Right. Now, I started doing, I think this is my third stream. I started doing them a month or so back. I used to do a lot of them back in lockdown, and they were really fun to do, and many people enjoyed them, and lots of people were very, very regular to come and watch them and support what I was doing. And that's great. Nothing wrong with any of that. I really appreciated that following. So it was only recently I decided that maybe I would literally like to start doing them again. And that's why I started a month or so back. And the idea was not just to do free ones on this channel, but to encourage people to maybe think about coming to the paid ones, which will start in August. Now, I'm not suggesting any of you got to. I'm just simply saying that there will be the option of watching one of these a month in August, and there are 2 a month at the moment, but in August they will revert to 1 a month, and that will allow me the time to do the paid versions on Podia. And to see how you go. These will become shorter, and they will have information, but they won't have as much as the paid ones later will have. I think that makes a bit of sense. I hope it does. But anyway, yes, what I've got to do is a little bit of blue colour over this area of the face, because I want some of the whites to show up, but I want them to actually show up against the blues. So when I put a white in, they really pop. And if you've got any mistakes with this part of the drawing, then now's the time to put them right. There's a little bit of face missing there on that cheek. I'll bring that round a little bit, and a little bit of the mouth missing there, so I'm going to put that back in. Okay, I'm going to come back in with a little bit of that dark at the same time. Got the shape there, and it comes down, and a little bit of a well at that point, and back up into that space. Much bigger mark here that's almost disappeared. Okay, wait for that to dry and we'll carry on. Sorry, I'm just seeing. These are great if you're sitting almost on top of them. You can't see quite what's going on. I do need to put a little bit more ultramarine blue in, so let's do that now. There you go. A little bit of cobalt blue. My favourite blue, I think. I just want to put in a slight cooler colour for this part of the face, and indeed up into this area as well. Making sure that we have got the drawing as it should be. Now, if you've done yours, don't erase as much out before you start painting as I did, or else it will, like me, cause you problems. Plus, I'm not over the top of my painting. I'm literally looking at it and ducking into my head to avoid all the lights that are causing quite an issue when it comes to seeing exactly where I'm at and what part I've got to paint and where I've still got to go. So just, yeah. So don't over erase if you are using trace down of some sort, or grid or whatever, or if you're using the line art, just be mindful of that. And just coming back up in here, put some of the shape of the ear back in. And this ear here needs a lot of work doing to it. There's a bit too much of that shape there. Let's just bring that out through there. I'm going to come in here and tease this. Now this is too light for the area, but I think we just need to put that in so I can get that nice edge highlight to the ear through there. Bring that round and push into that little tip and the fluffy dark fur right at the end of that ear. I'm going to come in here with a little bit of highlight to suggest a little bit on that horn so I don't forget it completely. And these horns are ribbed, so bear in mind that they're not heavily ribbed, but they are ribbed. I need to suggest that. Right, now then, let's get back to the water. I think I'm going to stick with the dagger, but I'm going to move up a size to, I think I've got a larger dagger here somewhere, or have I? Yes, I have this one. Just a slightly bigger one. You can see it's had lots of use. It's displayed as heck, but it may come right when I put the water to it. We shall see. Coming in with a lot of white now, and this is where your opacity will work for you. I'm going to come in with some Naples Yellow up into the top end of that to warm up some of the reflective surface in our water, and hopefully that will make the difference, or at least some of the difference. There's a lot of warm values. I'm going to bring in a little bit of the colour that I actually didn't put in the list. I do apologise. That's like a transparent orangey colour, but it's a little bit warmer than Naples Yellow. I quite like that as a colour. It is one of my, try to keep my colours for my gouache quite simple in choices, but I actually ended up getting that one. And there's another one somewhere around in here that I haven't actually deployed, but this is one I really like, and that is Cobalt Turquoise, and I don't think there's room for it, so I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and just add a little bit in there. You can see how beautiful that colour is. I've adopted that colour in my watercolours and indeed in my oils, so, and I have lots of versions of it in my pastels as well. Such a wonderful colour, and it is so useful in terms of applying to skies, to so many different areas within your painting. It really is. Let's just tap a little bit of that in there for a minute. And we're going to carry on with that colour if you don't mind. Keith, can you keep pencil? Oh, I've lost the end of that. Can you keep the pencil under the drawing quite dark anyway, as the gouache will obliterate? It will to a point, it will. But don't forget that heavy graphite is still a pigment, really, and so it can dirty some of your colour mixes if you're not careful. But yes, no, of course you can leave some of that showing. I was just a little bit too heavy with the eraser and lifted a little bit more out than I had ever intended. Just playing around with the dagger just to create a few extra marks. There'll be some dark ones as well as light ones going in, trying to take it up to the animal and not through the horn, although that can be corrected later on. But I want to take it beyond that as well, so it looks as though that ripple is going through that space on through to there, and again continuing on the other side. It just gives the illusion of distance and stuff going on behind. few taps here and there just to suggest these ripples, and I'm not sure what they're reflecting. I'm guessing it's some of the stones further up on the bank. I'm working as fast as my brushes will allow me. If I go any faster, I think I'm going to have to douse them in a bucket of water to cool them down. Not. Always remember that when you are painting, it isn't a race. There are no prizes for coming first, second, or any other position. Just simply go at your own speed and enjoy the process. With every mark that I'm making, I'm trying to draw the painting a little closer to a finish that I'll be happy with. I'm going to take that up to there and then through to here. Trying not to make a vignette of colour around the object. It's always very hard when you're trying to add in so much to keep that line all the way through and not stop with a little bit of another colour around there, and it just messes the whole thing up. Pat, question, do you let the gouache dry the palette or re-wet before using it again? Well, as I was saying earlier, Pat, this is one of my older palettes with gouache in, and it is, if I can get the camera to see that, probably won't focus, but it's all cracked and dried, and honestly it just falls out. Now you can re-wet this, and you can use glycerins and you can use other things, but I've got to say, for my part, this thing doesn't cost a lot of money, and they're easily found on the internet, but they got a seal top, and they come in, the whole thing puts together in a little water bucket as well. So this sits inside this, and it's for easy transport. But that's been in my fridge for approximately a year, and it's not been opened for sure, but it has still, nonetheless, it's just sat there. My wife has not been too happy about the prospect of keep having to move it when she's trying to get her vegetables in the fridge. But nonetheless, it's been there, and I opened it up for the first time today in all that time to see whether I had to re-pour, clean it out, or do something else to get ready for tonight's stream, only to find that it was just dandy. It was absolutely spot on and ready to go, and I was very impressed with that. And yeah, as I say, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend getting one of those. If you are using a lot of gouache and you don't want to keep throwing it away, and you don't want to try and effectively glue the broken cracked bits back into the pot so you can carry on, try one of those. For the cost, it's worth a gamble. Not sure if I like that darker version of that colour now. I've been putting it in there. I'm going to go over some of it and isolate some of these shapes, and it may be that I just tickle a little bit of colour in here and there up to the horn there and just come out this way, almost drawing with a brush. And because it's a good tip on the dagger, I'm able to do just that and draw my colour as opposed to use brush marks to suggest. Coming in with a stronger bit of pigment, because this is drying back to next to nothing. Got very, very thin at that point. As I say, the dark color, the light colors here will all dry darker, and these darker colors have all dried lighter. So you really do have to keep working on the idea of adding extra layers to increase the degree of lights and darks if you are trying to punch up that little bit of contrast or degree of contrast in your painting. Keith, do you keep a lot of paint in the fridge? No, I don't, Keith. I have that one little pot of gouache in the fridge, and Now Clarabelle is back and firing on all cylinders and has her own fridge. Of course, my wife has relegated my lovely little pot to go into Clarabelle's fridge, and that's it. So that's where that will live from now on, which is fine, not a problem with that. That's how Clarabelle's been designed, as a mobile studio, to get me out and do some plein air and enjoy myself on little trips away, and then I can have my gouache if I want to do a little gouache study in my sketchbook. Perfect, it's there. I've just got to get it out of the fridge, use it, and then put it back in the fridge when I'm done. It's as simple as that, I hope. Hopefully that answers Pat and Keith. I hope that gives you enough information. Right, I'm going to work more on the antelope now for a little while. So I'm going to come up here. The trouble having white paint on a white palette, I can't see where it all is. Never mind, we'll work it out. I'm going to come over here, and I want quite a white colour, but the colour will be reacting to a greater degree with the colours already applied, so it will not sort of be a perfect white, but it's a much brighter colour than what's already there. I'm just going to tease that in very carefully, and because of the angle of this animal and because of the coloration of this animal, very hard to get too much muscle tone. I can just about see the hips coming through somewhere around here, and the back end. I'm going to put that in a very strong, definite mark. Bring that down into some of that water. It will get lost about there, and then just bring that up. Try and re-establish some of my drawing, suggesting that little change there in the skin tone just through here, just a little sense of another value, but just enough to give rise to the hips and the buttocks. Right, now I'm going to come in with a little bit of that English light red. I do like that. It's a lovely colour. It's like a warm but cool, yeah, if you know what I mean. It's not a bright red, it's a cool red, terracotta. It works so well. And I want to put in a few various warm marks in here. Just going to tap around with the brush just to suggest the odd little colour in the pelt, in the coat, as it were. And mixing it up a little bit. You're not going to see individual hairs, it's way too far away for any of the likes of that. All you can do is suggest the animal by changing some of the colour values that you're seeing. Pat, how to protect your gouache paintings? Have you used cold wax? No, I haven't. To be fair, I'm always a little bit of a chicken when it comes to anything that remotely looks as though you've got to coat your painting with a wax or a spray. You can spray them, I know you can do that, and I actually haven't done any of that, to be fair, Pat. The whole thing fills me with dread. I steer away from any forms of fix on my pastels, any forms of, I have an intruder alert, I have a spider running down the horn of my antelope. Yeah, I'm sort of digressing. I just get a little bit of a chicken when it comes to protecting anything in that fashion. And I know you can do, and I know maybe even the question is you should do, I don't know. But I sort of run away from the idea when it comes to watercolors and pastels. I never fix a pastel. I may fix occasionally I may fix an underpainting, but never the final layers of a pastel. They always remain as they are, and that can cost you. I've had plenty of pastels in the past where I've had to literally remount it because the mount has become dirtied over time. It can happen, but at the same time, I don't trust some of these fixes and some of these so-called watercolor or gouache protections. A bit of a long-winded answer, I do apologize. But yeah, it is down to the individual. They are there, they do work, obviously. I'm guessing they work, else the companies wouldn't keep selling them. But I'm just not a big fan. And I have to really be heavily pushed to put a varnish of any description on an oil painting. My favourite, if I'm going to do it, is a light matte. And matte on oils is very, very hard to apply. It can be done, but there's a very careful process of heating up or warming up that the matte varnish before you even begin to apply it. And it's sort of got so many dangers of bubbling, not mixing well, going matte in places and semi-gloss in others. It's quite horrible. Actually, that comes down a little bit there. So yes, you pays your money, as it were. You take your chance, and hopefully you make the right decision. But in as many cases as possible, I do try to avoid any sorts of things like that. And hopefully our animal is starting to come out of the shape. Now look at that hindquarter comes down here. I think I've got a little bit too much haunch in the back, so I'm going to bring that to there and then just lose some of that at above it into the background. A couple little marks on the side. And then we've got a little bit of dark coming down here. I want to put a little bit more warm darks in here. Just playing around and tickling it over some of these sort of shapes. It is part of the shape of, as the belly is going underneath the animal. There's a degree of dark in there, but there's also a lot of sort of light and displacement of water and depth of water that's creating some of that look. I think we're doing quite well. I think it's starting to build. I'm probably not going to get anything done up here too much. I'm concentrating more on our animal. So it may be that we don't finish this stream in terms of a finished painting tonight, but at least you'll have seen the guts of it done, and hopefully can take enough away from it to have a go at this one yourself. Just dropping in a little bit of warm over that blue. Just tapping it with my hand or my finger, just to suggest that we've got other values, dirt or whatever. Come on, I don't want to squash you in paint. Disappear. Go on. I don't know what you are or where you're from. Okay, going to come up over the eye socket like that. So again, we're using that colour this time to come over that eye socket there and down to meet this eye socket here, which got to turn that to a bit of a blue. A little bit of colour around here, and then a bit of colour up, warm colour up through the top of that ear, down through there. These are just loose marks. It may be that if I was doing this where I had tons and tons of time to sit at the easel and paint this, I may take a little bit more time over what I'm doing. And that doesn't mean to say that this painting is any less because of it. It's just simply that I had that time on my hands. I had the ability to choose how fast or how slow I commit to the painting, and as such, if I want to take longer on it, I can do. If I don't choose to, I don't have to, and the painting will work on whatever level it is that I choose to do it on. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Keith. I think that we are just sort of making the warms and cools. Many of my paintings have always been about using complementary colour with them. That was a mistake. I'll get rid of that in a minute. Using complementary colour, using warms over cools, cools over warms. It really is quite a great way of creating degrees of contrast, subtle as they may be, over your work. I'll warm up that horn. Quite a thick horn on this one anyway, and this one does tend to taper out a little bit slender. I wouldn't like to be on the wrong end of one of these. I think I've got to look at some of these waves, so I need to come back in with a little bit more of that blue just to take that colour right up to what should be the edge of that horn. And this is where taking a little bit more care over this part of the painting itself will pay dividends. Right, now then, let's come in, and I want to put a little bit of blue, just a touch of blue, just a thin coating. There's predominantly a lot of brown in this face mask. What I want to do is just suggest a little bit of blue, not much, just to allow a sense of light. And that's a little bit too light, so I'm going to come back in with almost pure ultramarine, just to punch that into there. If I go too far, I can always come back and add a little bit of the brown back in. That little bug is just playing havoc. I'm so frightened that I'm going to damage it somehow. Don't want to do that. Last thing I want to do. Put a stronger bit of blue into the shadow part here. Not dark enough. Let's come back in. Let's mix a little bit more in. And then just come down across the eye here. That's quite a bit of shade, and I'm not getting it. So let's come back in and do a little bit more work. Separating that little bit of dark with a touch of that blue. We're getting somewhere where I want to be with that, but that's better. Now that looks a little bit awkward right now, and you'd be right in thinking so. It is. So I'm going to have to come back and look at some of the shadows and lights around this area. There's definite shadow cast from there down through under there, as that then comes into the head. Now I've got to redo that little bit of dark that comes down in through here in a moment, but I can't touch it yet until that little area and that bit there is dried out. So let's just come back in, mix up another dark, and where are we going to go? I'm going to come in with some more of that sienna, very, very rich dark. Picking up quite a bit of blue. So we have a good strong, there's not a lot of water in there, but it's a good strong opaque dark colour. I just want to shape this up because this has gone out a little bit. I'll come in there, put that shape through to there, and that then comes down in a little more of a curve. I did touch that little bug then and he flew off, thankfully. I didn't mean to touch him, but he just got in the way of the brush momentarily, but reacted fast enough to get out of trouble, which is a win-win. Okay, I'm just working with this area just to make sure that that is where it wants to be. Then we've got a much darker dark down this side, and that will then show up on that little bit of blue. That's what I was looking to do, because I've missed out a little bit on the eye, going out through there to that part of the ear that goes into that space. A stronger dark there, stronger dark, and a little bit of dark over the back. Starting to build. And I'm going to bring that shape out a little bit here. Can't quite see it. This light above me is shining right where I don't want it. There we go. Hopefully that's about where it should be. If it's not, I'll have to look at it in the cool light of day, make a few minor adjustments. So let's just look in here. We're going to tidy up this area. We're going to bring that around. A little bump in that shape there. It comes down through this part here, and we've got a nice strong dark here. Now I think I need to tidy that up a little bit there. It's a little bit cranky. We're going to change that and come up here, a little bit of dark up through there, just a suggestion of light underneath the eye, not much. And then bring that all the way down through there. Okay, so whilst that's doing what it's doing, I want to come in with a finer brush. Got a little brush here, a little one of Rosemary's smaller pointy brushes. Nice little detail brush, but it's quite handy to just come in, I hope, and shape up there. That's what I wanted to do. Give that a straighter edge there, which I've now done, and then that comes through a little less on that, and comes almost but not quite touching the muzzle. So that's going to get a lot lighter, but we're not there for that yet. I'm just going to come in a little bit more of the cooler color here, and I will come in with some white over that just to give that the final look as well. A little bit of shape gone here and out. Back end of the eye. Bring that down like that. Okay, and there is just a little bit of light on the outside of the face there. Alright, so we're doing quite well. Thank you, Sylvia. That's very kind of you. I don't know how many are still here from earlier. I hope most of you are. Hope I haven't put too many to sleep. But if you're enjoying it, let me know. And that's great, because you'll always get another one. If you don't enjoy it, then I won't do them. So if you're enjoying it, that's great. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comment and the support. Okay, so where are we? Yeah, I need to get a little bit more light going on in the hindquarters and around the chest here. Not too much. It's judging it because this color will darken, as I've said earlier. So it's a case of going so far with it, and I'm just playing around with some of these shapes. You get little sort of sheens on the animal's coat, catching a bit of light here and there, and that's just a little bit of swooshing around with the brush, nothing more. Okay, so I think we've done an awful lot on the animal. We're not going to get it done in the time. We are already an hour and a half in. These are meant to be getting fast, not long. So I'm going to do a little bit more work on the water, which is my main interest, and then it may be that I come back in the cool light of the day and I'll paint this and complete it and maybe post that on social another time. Alright, So let's just come in and tease some of this water around, start making this water look a little bit watery. I'm going to put a little bit of that green colour in. It's quite a nice colour to use. And that greenish colour is Cobalt Turquoise. As I said, I've already told you it's a fantastic colour. And I'm going to come down here and just tapping out some of these light forms of our water. A little bit of light, if I remember, I put in there to catch some of the look. And just bring some of this off through here. Eat into whichever way you want to go with this. So I'm going to come in with a little bit more lighter blue colour into some of this, just to suggest that there are some movements in here, but it's not as strong as some of the lights. We're going to put it in over there. Thank you, Roxy. That's jolly kind of you to say. Right, now I'm going to save a few taps for splashes, of course. And one thing I have seen, I just want to bring in maybe a little bit of my Umber. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of warm colours down through here. I'm going to change what we're seeing here. Almost an extension of the shadowing from the animal, but just a little warm colour. And I'm going to bring in a bit of that orangey colour too, I think, just to warm it up a bit through there. Just want to change that look against the blue. The orange and that blue will punch. They will work against each other, and because of that they will give you a beautiful effect of glow and of contrast, complementaries. That's what I was trying to think of. Complementaries working with each other. All right. Where do we go now? I got to come back in with some more of that color, I think. I want to push some of that up into there. Maybe a little darker than I had it, just to suggest it bubbling away in the shadows. That's what I wanted. Something like that, just suggesting a little bit more. And the blues and the greens and the shadowy forms of the water just being dispersed and pushed around by the surge of the animal coming in. Like that. And I think I want to put in a bit of darker blue colour into this area here. Like that. Nice strong bit of blue coming into that. A little bit of the brown still popping in places, but not too much of it. Now here, I'm just seeing on put a bit of that red, not that much, a little bit of that red. I want to come and warm up this side of the coat, coming down here, underneath the chin, down into the water at this point, and let that lose out there, disappear. So the whole lot sort of merges, and you've got that dark, shadowy part of the animal. A little bit of blue just on the outer, cooling that down. There's a definite pop-up straight shape there. And I may have to adjust that. I don't think it's not too far off, not too much to worry about really. And a little bit of pink just coming down the edge of that dark. Slightly different transition. Now, while this is all playing around, I just want to come back in now with some real strong marks of light and dark on our animal itself. Some things that have been missing, so really punch it out. A little bit of light in here, a little bit of hair. Maybe a little strong on that lower part, but we can just pop in with a little bit of bluish colour to knock that back if we feel the need. But this is starting to bring the animal to life. That's the whole thing. A little bit of light over there. You see me tap off some of it. It's with purpose. I just, if I feel that I've got something that's just a little bit aggressive, I just tap it back with my finger just to knock it back a little. Bring it in under control. Gently teasing a dry brush over some of these areas just to bring them out a little more. Not too much water in the brush either. Take some off and only put in what you really are going to need. I'm going to bring that into there. And there's little bits of light and dark in here. And stronger white now as we come down underneath the eye. Stronger light colour. Remembering that straight line, I did not have it, now I've got it. And there's a little kick in there and a little shake comes down there, and then that stops about there. Strong light source of our animal, and a little bit over the brow of the eye. That muscle that's over the top of the eye, protecting the eye. And then we've got little areas under here, going up the ear, like that. Now I haven't really dealt at all with too much of the horns, and I think that we will be here half the night if I was to do that. I come around here and start shaping up what we see here. This is not round, it comes down and suddenly turns, something like that. So I'm going to put a little bit of light in here, bring that down to just this left side of the nose, a little bit up and through there. We're losing some of those darks, but we are still allowing some of them to pop through and make their presence profoundly felt. And it's all about just a few I's and T's, moving forward slowly to bring this to a conclusion. A bit of light up under there to the mouth parts, the lower mandible, the lower jaw. A bit of cooler green colour just under there. It's not green enough. I'll bring some of it together, a little bit of that. I'm just going to bring that little, that's too much. Taking the worst out of the brush, let's play around with that a little bit more, a little bit under there, a bit under there. Okay, so I'm going to leave that part there. As I say, we're not done. There's still more work to be done on this. And I think when I looked at the idea of doing this in an hour or so, I think I was rather delusional. But it was worth a go. And I will finish it, as I say, but it won't be tonight, I'm afraid. I do apologise to you all for that. Right, I'm going to leave the water because, as I say, we have established it needs a lot more work. But we will carry on and do a little bit more. Take that shape out on the back. So I went to do that and I didn't. So let's do that now. Okay. Right, let's get give some real quality to this water if we can. I really want to punch out some of the lights, make them stand up. A little bit of light through the back here. I'm going to run between a cooler greenish colour that's in the back here, and a little bit more of that lovely colour, a little bit of that in there. So it's a light colour, but it's not as light as other places. You've got to save your best to last with any painting, and I don't just mean this. You've got to literally, if you've got light areas, that's great, but make sure they are the lightest colour before you apply them. If you've got other colours that are lighter later and you've already used the lightest mix you can, then you've got nowhere to go. So just be careful that you don't suddenly put a bright white in somewhere only to realise that actually you need a brighter one and you can't put a brighter one in because you've already taken and exceeded the limit, as it were. Even here, it's all in shadow still. There, it looks quite bright, but it's not as bright as it could be. There's quite bright. but that still could go brighter, I'm sure. I've always enjoyed painting water. Indeed, about 4 or 5 years ago, I completed my second book with Search Press on using acrylics to create waters of all different types. So I think that publication is still available. So if anyone wants to see different ways of painting water from me, that is a possibility. You can still find a copy of that and enjoy it. It's not very expensive. And I do believe it was, no, that was a dog one I did. That was made in Italian as well, but I don't think that exists anymore. But if anyone is interested, I have got 2 courses out in watercolors, 2 watercolor courses out on my Podia site. Now I will put a link to them underneath this video. And if you want to check them out, you're more than welcome to. And you can also get involved with my Podia communities, absolutely free of charge. You do not need to be to pay anything to enjoy those, and it's a great way of staying in contact with me and other members. But there are, as I say, 2 courses on there already in watercolor. One I think is £97 and the other I think is £47. For one is painting skies, and the cheaper one is learning how to do ink and wash. Now the reason I'm saying all that now, apart from a selfless, shameless plug, is that I'm thinking of doing a new course, and that will be painting water, and it will probably be a watercolor one. They tend to be more popular, I think, than oils or anything else, although I would love to do an oil one. But I think this one will probably be another watercolor, but how to paint water in watercolor. And I hopefully will start work on that very soon and bring that to everybody to market in the next couple of months or so. So keep an eye open for that. That'd be great. And if you've already got one of my courses, thank you very much for that support. And let me know in the comments on the course that you're in, how you're getting on with it. I'd love to know. And if you need any help with it, also let me know that too. But you can see how this water is starting to build. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot to go on with it yet. We're not out of it or close to the finish. I thought I would be, but again, apologies, I'm not. I thought I might be. Now then, those of you who have been watching, of course, this is only for you who have been watching, because if you're not watching, you won't know what I'm about to say. Oh dear Lord, it's getting late. What I would say is that on the first stream, I actually did do a video on that, but that sort of bombed a little bit, because unless you'd seen the stream, you probably wouldn't have wanted to watch the video to see the conclusion. So what I might say is that I have thought about the next stream being a watercolor. But if in the comments under this one, if you've watched this, if you want me to stop any minute now, which is going to be any minute now, and put it away and complete this with all the rest of the detail that I plan on putting in, and taking that much more care, as it were, then let me know, and I can make the next stream the conclusion of this one. Just let me know in the comments. I don't want to sort of bore you all to death with carrying on with the same painting, but it would be nice maybe to get this one finished off so that you can see the actual completion of the work, instead of just seeing half the work being done. But if you don't, then you may have seen enough of this one, and that's fine. But as I say, to give this its fair due, it does need another session on it, which will probably be another stream time, another hour at least. All right, so it is 20 to 9. And we've been going an hour and 40 minutes. So yeah, if you could answer that last question in the comments underneath this stream, it will be aired straight after I turn off the switches, as it were. Let me know if you want to see the conclusion of this in a subsequent stream, and if enough of you do, then that's what I'll make the next stream, so you get to see the end of it. I personally would like to do the end of it because I think we've come quite a long way and we've still got a long way to go. And anyway, there you go. Well, that's 2 of you want to see it completed. So that would be cool. So anyway, there you go. I'm going to wrap tonight up here. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very late. And if I keep doing very long streams, no one will want to spend any money with me to see another stream. So, yeah. Cheers, Colin. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the painting does literally come to life at the conclusion. So, all right. So, with that said, I am just going to quickly make sure I haven't missed anything on the stream. I think there are about 14 people watching or have been watching. I think it was more at one point. I probably put a lot of people to sleep. But I have had a lot of fun with this one so far. And as I say, if I read enough people want the next stream to be the conclusion of this one, then I am more than happy to set that up and do a part 2. I've often argued with myself that trying to do a good painting, or any painting really, other than how to do a little bit of fur or how to do a little bit of sparkle on something, I think that most paintings will take at least 2 good streams to do. So if you're up for that, peeps, let me know, as I say, either in the chat now or in the comments underneath this, and I will oblige you by making the next stream this one. And until that time, if you're in Britain, be careful tomorrow. They've given us health warnings for the extra heat coming our way and the pollen and spores. So just be aware of that if you're in the UK. And wherever you are, including all our lovely viewers from America, thank you so much for taking the trouble on your Sunday to spend it with me for a couple of hours and watching this. Indeed, if you're still all here, and there were several of you at the start, I don't know if you're all still here now, let me know if you're still here. I'd love to know if you've made the complete couple of hours. And also from Ireland, of course, thank you very, very much for joining me from Ireland. And if I've missed anybody, please forgive me. I'm a one-man band here trying to keep a tag on what's going on. So I'm trying to concentrate on the painting aspect, talking about it without muffling and rambling, and also keeping an eye on the stream. And I've also got Wendy and sometimes in the past Ben, who have been moderators for me, keeping an eye on things and making sure that nothing's going too badly wrong. I do hope that there's been no lags in this stream. Again, if anybody of you out there have experienced lagging or anything horrible happening, please let me know that too, because I don't know, and it has always been a bit of a problem with the technical side of doing everything. Well, 6 is not bad. Sylvia, your message keeps getting rejected or retracted. It's like you're saying something and then it's not appearing. I don't know what's happening, if you're not wishing us to see it. I don't know. Or whether there's some technical furboil, that thing, whatever. in the thing. Okay. Right, everybody. So I'm going to call it a day. And I just wish each and every one of you well. Oh, great. I'm really pleased, Wendy. Thanks ever so much. I took it a big gamble that I didn't contact Ben or anybody else. I just went for it and hoped to God it would work. But thanks, everybody. Yeah, thank you. And I'll see you all in 2 weeks' time. That will be the 7th of July. So put that in your books. Yeah, put it in your books. And I'll see you all on Sunday the 7th at 7 o'clock, same time, 7 p.m. BST, British Summer Time. And I look forward to your company then. And if you have any friends who might be interested in what I'm doing, then tell them to watch the first part of this on my channel and pop back in on the 7th to see part 2. And I look forward to all of your companies at that time. Take care, everybody. All the best to you. Stay safe. Have fun. Enjoy your painting. Bye-bye. If you're still listening, this has got to go back in the fridge now.